So here we are. The greenhouse is not here. Well, you might ask, Randall, well, what happened to your greenhouse? Well, the wind came up yesterday about 45 miles an hour. It got under the greenhouse and launched the greenhouse. Literally. Even the bricks that were around the skirting are still there, but no greenhouse. The tie-out points, it just snapped the rope. Oh, look, how handy. Stakes didn't come out of the ground. At least most of them. I'll have to pick those up later. Let's go look at what's left. So here's the frame. Kind of tweaked it a little bit. That's going to buff out. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Yeah, we're good. But we have to get this fixed up in the next couple of days because winter is coming. And I ain't kidding. I'm out here in a short sleeve shirt right now, but in 3 days we are getting sub-freezing temperatures and with about a 50% chance of freezing rain, which in East Texas is absolutely horrible. See that? That's trees. You know what happens when you run power lines through trees? You have no power. Is what we need to do is several things to get ready for this storm. When ice falls out of the sky in East Texas, you lose power. When it's 17 degrees outside and you have no power, things go wrong. So we are going to prepare for this winter storm. And there's several things we have to do. One, I have 2 days to fix the greenhouse completely. And I've got some ideas how we're going to make that more permanent. Next thing is we need to make our own power. So let's take a look at that real quick. So here we are. We have this broken piece on top of our greenhouse and it is completely broken in half. Broke right here where the rivet goes through and holds all these 3 pieces together. We're gonna have to fix that. So just like you would fix a broken arm, we're gonna fix it with this little metal dowel, we'll call it. But is what we're gonna do is we're just gonna hold it on with some good old Gorilla Tape. Eventually. There we go. Can't reach that Gorilla Tape, so I'll bring out the new one. Heard a guy the other day talking about it's really hard to work and video anything, and boy, he wasn't just whistling Dixie. It is extremely difficult. So this, let's go ahead and put a couple more on, just for some extra help, because the wind's going to blow and it's going to need to be strong. Wow, I think I got y'all. You're zoomed in. Let's see if we can go back just a little bit. That's all y'all are seeing is the elbows. Oh, baby. Can y'all see that? Yeah, y'all see that. Now this greenhouse won't go back up next year. That last wind pretty much ruined it. So we're just gonna tape the living crap out of it. It's never gonna fold up again. And this part has to be really strong. Well, this Gorilla Tape is probably stronger now than what it started out to be. It's not bad. On these legs, they normally, you just put some basically like tent stakes in the ground. We're not going to do this. We're going to make sure that if this blows away again, that we're going to take a chunk of the earth with us. So I'll show you what we're going to do. So I've got my new tent stake, which is a T-post, and we're going to put them on the inside like this. In order to do that, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to move this thing a little bit. Because what I may do is mark every spot and spin this thing out of the way a little bit. Sorry I had to turn you off my back to y'all. Trick of driving a straight post or digging a straight hole is turning 90 degrees as you're doing it. It's a nice trick. I've dug a lot of fence post holes. It might not be perfect, but we can always kind of tweak the top of these poles as we go. So I'm going to finish driving these in and we'll get back to you. So I'm going to put my official okie dokie on this. We have our T-post in. Put a little tape so it didn't cut the canvas. That pole kind of stuck out a little bit. That's all that tape's doing, is covering that corner basically, making a softener. But there it is. That's not flying away again, ever. But we still have some issues. So, see if I can get you in here. See where that's got it's bent. That one's almost snapped. I got to fix that. First thing I'm going to do is tape it, but it's still, it doesn't have side strength. I'm going to figure something out on that. And by the way, if you hear all that racket in the background, there is a logging crew doing some logging. We're doing a big clear cut behind us. I'm friends with the owner. He said he's going to replant it all. It's his timber. But it is noisy, and it's been going on for about a month. So I'm kind of over it. I think they're almost done. And here, if you wonder what the mess is in my yard, I am cleaning out a place to do a container garden. And this used to be yard at one time, I can tell, and previous owners just let it grow up and didn't feel like mowing it, so it just grew up into jungle. So I'm de-junglifying it. Well, I rednecked the shit out of this. I had a piece of old PVC pipe behind the barn. Didn't even have to cut it. It fit perfectly. And I put it on top of the little bolts here where it wouldn't just fall down. And I Gorilla Taped the ever-loving hell out of it. It's not coming off until I take it off. But that will give Now the other wall will help support, especially when you get the outside tarp on it. It's going to want to kind of suck it in. That'll help the rigidity out quite a bit. I don't think I'm going to have any issues out of it. So on to the next. I'm already tired. So I got the top on it with a little yoga bends and all kinds of stuff. That was interesting by myself, which is fine. But I made a boo-boo. Made a bad boo-boo. So I made this thing so square and taut that the zipper won't close. That's a problem with the greenhouse. I can't seal it, so it's not going to be right. So what I got to do is I'm going to have to pull these two front posts out and bring them in a little bit to get some slack in this material. As you see, this is supposed to go behind the pole, and it won't. You can't stretch it. So more work in the future. I got to get my T-post puller, which is not here at the moment. It's at my other property. So it's just going to sit here for a day. I'll be over there tomorrow. Our next project of the day is I have a fireplace issue. Our fireplace leaks smoke. I've looked up in the chimney. It looks clear. I think it's probably a design flaw. So I started putting some things together to make a false. Basically, I'm going to show you an experiment, and it worked to a degree, but it's still not quite right. I'm making a false front, or it is a front. It's not false. It's front. Now, this isn't a permanent deal. This is an experiment to see if I can get it to quit leaking smoke out the front. So imagine, if you will, we're looking at the fireplace. This goes in front of it, just like glass doors or something like that. This covers a portion of the empty hole in the fireplace, but it's still leaking smoke a little bit under here. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take another 1x4 and I'm going to seal this off, and then we're going to put it back in, because it is very possible we will need that fireplace, and I do not want to kill us with carbon monoxide. So this is going to have to work. I'm going to make it work. Here, we're going to see how that does. So for the project, you got little cracks here. I'm going to seal that up with some blue tape just so it doesn't leak. Got a little bit of a crack on each side. Probably put some blue tape up here. It doesn't stick. As long as you don't leave it on there, it won't peel the paint. But we're going to see how that little bit extra, it made the hole really pretty small. If it leaks now, there's something wrong with the fireplace. Next on the list, I haven't used this buddy heater in years, so we're going to test it. And it's sparking. And this is the reason why you test stuff. Look, I can smell some gas. I'm not understanding this at all. Oh, there's a pilot burning down in there. There it goes. I guess the line was just full of air. Oh, I forgot to hold for 30 seconds. I'm gonna turn it back off. Just see if I can duplicate it without this in its face. Yep, lit right up, just full of air. Oh, there it goes. I know y'all can't see it. I can't even hardly see it. There is a flame in there, and that is hot already. It's just too light out here. In the dark, it'd be lighting up. These heaters are perfectly safe to use indoors. It states you can use it indoors. I've used it indoors. There's an old argument out there that you can't use them indoors. If you don't want to use it indoors, you can freeze. I'm out of that battle. That's up to you. Do what you feel is safe for you. But this works, and we're gonna go on and I can scratch that off my to-do list for today. Let's move on to something else. So the next on the hit parade is this old Coleman stove. I haven't used this stove in 10 plus years. I don't normally carry something like this camping. I just use it in case of what we have coming towards us. We lose power and I want to make a cup of coffee in the house. But since I hadn't used it, we're going to test it. I smell gas. Huh. It needed more. I don't know what the deal was. That sucker started like a jet engine. Okay, mission accomplished. I can check that off my list. We're gonna have to let that cool off. I can't put that back up yet. Well, here's the part that I have not been waiting for. This wood I cut it down last year. It's been seasoning for a year. And it is the hardest wood that I've ever seen. I had to manually split this thing, basically with a sledge and a wedge the first time, and then it will barely split a half. It is super hard. Check it out. Is hard as rock. And plus, we split a lot bigger stuff with this little Harbor Freight splitter. They're not the strongest, but we split stuff that big around with it, and it went right through it. Not gonna do it. Oh, crap balls. Will not do it. So let's try this one. I went to a different wood pile. I have no idea what this stuff is. Easy peasy, split clean. It's that wood, man. Oh, that means I've got a whole bunch of wood that's almost unsplittable. Man, this stuff just busts right apart. Got a little bit bigger piece of the same stuff. Ooh, maybe I've already worn this thing out. It doesn't, I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. Fantastic. So obviously I need to go get some more of that wood. Look at this stuff. Look at it. That was first split. Just terrible. It's oak. But this little splitter doesn't like it. It is hard. Well, I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to continue with this and fighting, lots of cussing, and y'all don't need to see all that, so I'll bring you back here in a little bit. There's just not enough hours in the day, and I have an appointment tomorrow afternoon that I have to go to, so I had to kind of finish the greenhouse up. So I did a couple of different things. One, yeah, pull that stake out of the ground. Good luck. So I managed, these were on the inside, I managed to pull them out of the ground by hand, which is not the easiest. So I brought those outside, put them at an angle. They're holding the canvas down. Inside, which I'm not going to open it, but I drove a 3-foot stake at an angle. So when it tries to come up, there is no way it's coming up. It's here. Now, I'm not saying this thing won't self-destruct, which it very likely could if conditions got bad enough. But it ain't just going to pull stakes out of the ground and blow away and flip upside down. That is there and better than it started being. But this will be its one and last season. I'm going to put a built greenhouse right out there here, but some of these trees have to come out first. They're too close to a power line, and I just don't want them falling on, you know, the greenhouse I'm actually going to build right here. Well, that's it for today. Ooh, what a day. We have been at it all day. I finally figured out my wood splitter, there's nothing wrong with it. All the wood that I took over to my campfire ring, I brought some back, some of it this big around. Boom, split it right in half. Everything that's here on my porch that I have for my fireplace, unsplittable. I'm hoping that if I get a hot enough fire, I can just burn it whole. and it won't smoke too bad. My gosh, it's the hardest stuff. It's just oak. I mean, oak's hard, but I had other oak and it split, but there's something special about that oak. It does not want to come apart. Anyway, we got a lot of things done today. And we got a couple more days before it gets real serious, but it is going to start freezing till tomorrow night, which I don't care about freezing. That's not that big a deal. But we got a couple more days before precipitation starts falling and it's freezing. That's the problem. People up north may have called me a wussy about this stuff, but I lived in the cold country. And it snows, it does whatever. That's just what they call Tuesday. But here the problem is all the limbs and the trees, there's a lot of dying trees, and the ice builds up on them and they fall over right on the power lines. And you lose power for multiple days while it's in the teens, it can get bad real quick. A real short story. What was it, 3 years ago? Texas got 3 or 4, I can't remember now. Got the big polar vortex that came down. And I lived down on the Gulf Coast at the time. People were literally freezing to death in their homes. It got down to 6 degrees at our house. And no power, all electric homes. And the other people that did have a fireplace didn't have a supply of firewood. And it was super wet. So if they did have wood, they were having a hard time burning. People were literally burning furniture in their fireplace to stay alive. A lot of people did not live through that. So it's just a different kind of climate here. We're not set up to operate in freezing conditions and with water falling and freezing. Up north, I know a lot of times it just snows, but here it just comes down as ice, just pure ice. Thunderstorms with ice. So it's pretty different. Anyway, I'm going to have one of these and sit and look at my catastrophe that I've created today. And we're going to continue on tomorrow morning. See you in a little bit.